Hello, I am Deb Coviello, the Drop-In CEO. And as always, I am grateful that you've joined us for another episode of the podcast where week after week I speak to the most amazing leaders who share their insights and inspire you. And just know we put out this content because we sincerely care about partnering with a C-suite leader to navigate challenges with confidence. And this week, I am honored to speak to Kareen Walsh, who is a visionary business and people strategist, author, podcaster, investor, and 7 to 8 figure business building entrepreneur, making her the ultimate business healer. With nearly 2 decades of experience optimizing performance in e-commerce, health and wellness, technology, and finance industries, running top performing teams in complex environments, Kareen has a proven track record of helping C-suite executives turn their vision of impact into action, often resulting in 10xing their investment. And she has an amazing story that I can't wait for her to tell. But Kareen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to serve today.
And I'm so excited because you've got this most amazing voice. And as a fellow podcaster, we appreciate having smooth sounding voices into the ears of our listeners. But I was introduced to Karina when I looked at her background, not only technically how she serves C-suite leaders, but also some cool technology that she is in. And again, she has a heart of service, which so aligns with my values. So we're going to have a great conversation. My listeners get to listen in and enjoy us getting to know each other. But Kareen, I'd like to pass the mic over to you and share a bit about yourself.
Sure. So truly, I feel like my purpose in this world is to assist people through whatever transition they're going to achieve what they do want out of life. And I didn't realize that that was a theme of mine, of how I show up. Like I couldn't articulate it well through how I actually became a corporate leader and then became someone who built and launched my own business, now 10 years in the running, of 7 figure consultancy and coaching practice, and moving into keynote talks and speaking on large stages. It's been an interesting journey for sure, that it's hard to summarize truly into just a few words. But what I would say is the sooner we as people, I think, connect more to ourselves and what we truly desire out of life, the more enjoyment we bring. And it wasn't always the case for me. I definitely was someone who was a people pleaser and an overachiever combined. And a lot of suffering for success mentality is how I led my career in the beginning, because that's the model that I knew. And I didn't know that I could actually design how I create the environments around me to lead at my best. And I think that is something, if I were to think about your audience watching and listening, is to really just tap into who we are, right? And how we show up. And so that journey of the push, like if you met me in my 20s, I was what other people would call a bulldozer. I was all about climbing the corporate ladder, making as much as I could, making sure that I found financial security, because that was something that I knew if I could build the foundation for, then I could have choice. And I was quite successful in that realm. Female and technology companies out in San Francisco, building my career. And then all of a sudden traveling between New York and Colorado for this one company that then turned my job that I initially started as a business analyst. And then within 5 years, I was a senior director of mergers and acquisitions. Like that's how aggressive I was in my career
Wow.
building. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. But I guess you kind of, and I know you're trying to summarize, and God,
Yeah.
you sound like just like me. Again, it was push,
Right.
push, push, work
Yeah.
harder, financial success. We had the freedoms to be able to do that. I never perceived a glass ceiling. If I couldn't get through, I'd move around, etc. The world was my oyster, and I could just do that. But we missed a pivotal point. What was it then, or what happened in that journey for which you said, "Oh my God, there's got to be a better way."
Yeah. So it was pretty wild. I was breaking down, like literally the disconnect from the achiever to what was going on internally, meaning I had no life. My relationships were all not great. Like they did not represent the success I was having in business because I didn't feel successful on the inside. My health was totally being challenged. And then I realized, around, I think I was 29 when I resigned from that position because I knew it could be better for me. And I was willing to take the risk to go start afresh and new. And I moved from San Francisco to Colorado at the time to just start over and with a new focus in mind, which was me first, me and my health first, figure that out, and then build the wealth creation or income process around that. And I'll tell you, with even that vision for myself and moving to Colorado was a slower pace at that time. Now it's completely different out there, but at that time it was a slower pace. It was really amazing to make the same exact money because I now had a skill set that I could sell, and I went into self-employment versus being employed by a company at the time because I truly wanted the freedom to choose where I spent my time for the best results in my whole life, not just in my career life. And that happened, at 29. And that was kind of like my big leap back then, to initiate a foundation that I still live off of today,
Mhm.
where my health comes first. And if I start to feel a breakdown in any sort of way, then that means something has to change around me.
So I have to applaud you at such a young age to have
Mm-hmm.
that realization and take a decision to make the change, because so many people will just get caught up in life and responsibility and do what is expected, and find themselves 20 more years later saying, I really am in bad health, and maybe they're kicked out of the nest. I will say I'm made of the similar stuff as you.
Mm-hmm.
I did enjoy success. I thought everything was happy, and yes, I still have a solid marriage, solid relationships, family,
Great.
etc. But I hit a pivotal point, left corporate. I felt lost, but then I think I found more of who I was meant to be,
Mm-hmm.
started committing to my health. But also, even when you're on this journey and you start committing and doing something for yourself, even as recently as 6 months ago, I realized I still was not in the optimal health. And
Mm-hmm.
I realized I was still not fully committed to myself. I was
Mm-hmm.
going through the motions. I wasn't unhealthy, but I could be better. And
Yeah.
so, since fully committing to myself, I've lost like 25 pounds. I feel better, look better, and am continue to go forward. And only when this body can function and look good and look healthy does everything follow and just fall into place.
Completely. Yeah. It affects our mind. It affects how we show up emotionally. It has to be an integrative approach
Mm-hmm.
to have ultimate fulfillment in your life, you know?
Yeah, so I got to go into this entrepreneurial journey because I'm looking for
Yeah.
people to commiserate with. And again, one would say if somebody looked at me when I left corporate and to where I'm at now with the podcast, the book, an audiobook coming out, having consulting clients and having the ups and downs, one would say, "Oh
Yeah.
my God, you're incredibly successful." And I would say, "You know what, maybe I am. I am, and accept what I have." But I'm now 6 years in business and I'm still trying to find the sweet spot, the way I'm continuing to make course corrections, and I'm starting to feel that momentum in your 10-year journey for
Yeah.
yourself. When did you know that you arrived? Were you successful out of the gate, or when was that point where you started becoming really viable and realizing personal and financial success in your business?
So I think the risk taking that I took in the end of, from 29 into 30 and just stepping into designing how I want to show up in it all was like my MVP, right? Like it was the first first way of testing what am I capable of. And I did that for a few years, the self-employment contract-based work, just to have some, cash flow to just show up in the life I wanted. And then when I moved back to the East Coast, at that time, I've ping-ponged across this country several times. So like I should have owned a moving company. That's how many times I've moved across. I would be like really well off right now in that. But came back to the East Coast at that time and got married. And I decided to actually go back into corporate. And I just want to share that because some people, I'm not in corporate anymore, but at that time, it fit into my life to have something a little bit more stable and what I was doing at the time was highly competitive here on the East Coast, that I wanted to remind myself what it was like to lead in business. And like I always tell people, when you're employed in someone else's company, leverage the fact that they're paying you to be there and learn as much as you can, right? Like squeeze it. And so for about 3 years, I went back into corporate and built, scaled, and launched different startups, and just repolished my skills on someone else's dime, learning new models, but then also was able to focus, at home a little bit. Then got to my wit's end, realizing that I'm really not an employable person. Let me go launch my own thing again. So luckily, though, I got an exit package from that company. And I was like, okay, let's jump back into building my own business. I went back into old habits, though, which was old habits of just selling my own time for money and not really thinking about a model of business. And what I had done in other people's companies was to scale them, to make them operationally efficient, to lead well, build teams, etc. So I had this whole skill set I wasn't really leveraging to build my own. And it took about 4 years into that construct where I think it was 2017, I questioned myself from my strategy for 2018. I said, Kareen, you've done this. Like you know how to do this really well. Like what else? What's next? What do you want for your business? And I challenged myself to say, what would it take to make 7 figures in your business in the next year, but only use 10% of your time? That was my strategic goal. It was like, let's plan that year that way, because if you do that, you have to get out of your own way and truly build something that is not just about you, not just self-employment. It's something about a business model, a structure, a something in your gifting that will also give you your time to do the other things. That was the first year I wrote my first book. It was when I launched my podcast. It was like, all the other stuff I wanted to do that doesn't really earn that much initially, and then but you need time commitment to it. So I was like, okay, what would the business model be to do 10% of your time and make 7 figures? What would that look like? And what was so great about what I had built to date was my reputation and my relationships.
Mm.
And I looked at my service model. I looked at my client base. I said, what else do my clients, my existing clients, what else do they need? Could they need that I could service through other people coming in through my company to help them with? And that's when I started reaching out to my existing network and say, hey, what are the challenges you're going after next year? How are you going about it? Can I help you in any way? Can I bring in other people to help you get it done? And that's when I initiated my consultancy and hit the 7 figures in 6 months. Like it literally, I was sitting on it, Deb. Like it was not something that but I had to take the perspective of getting out of my own way and really embodying who I needed to become to scale that business in that way. And it's been that way running now in the last, that was 2017, so 7 years of just doing that. Like that's one revenue stream that I focus on. And then I built my coaching practice to show other people how to be entrepreneurial thinkers, get out of their own way, know who they have to become. And I built methodologies, and I run a coaching practice, masterminds, retreats, and workshops, etc., to assist others in leveraging the business models that not most entrepreneurs are taught, but also leveraging the C-suite type of leadership that I had been in for years to help them elevate on how to build their practice and take it to the next level.
Inspiring, and gives me pause to realize I can and will do exactly the same thing. Oh, wow.
I'm so glad.
No, it is. It's really interesting because again, I have basically replaced my corporate salary, but I will tell you I do it on my time. I've got my health and I don't work as hard and I can do more of the stuff that I truly enjoy. So
Yeah.
it's one of these things, how much more do I want to push? How can I scale? But really it's encouraging so that anybody out there that's saying, I think I want to hang my shingle, I am not meant for corporate anymore. There are different kinds of models. You can do both at the same time. You just have to believe in yourself, set your purpose, set your intentions, and also make sure your body and health is in check as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
It's
Mm-hmm.
all of that. So what I love though is before we jumped on here, you shared this particular product or service, your AI tool, and it is so cool. So tell us more about Hey Kareen.
Sure. Yeah. So Hey Kareen was launched earlier this year, and it's been such a I would like to say legacy play for me, honestly. Like I didn't realize it was a legacy move until it got out into the world. But what I decided earlier this year, so I'm constantly getting DM'd, messaged, etc. Hey Kareen, and with a question. Like constantly, because I am this dynamic person that has lived a very actionable life. So I have a lot
Mhm.
of lessons learned and a lot of things to share with people, different models to help them through things. And I was realizing though my capacity was quite limited to serve who needs the support. And how could I do that? And most people who have like coaching practices or advisory practices, they start to think the only option is to train other people in their methods to serve and extend. But that's actually quite expensive in my opinion. Like I don't need to carry a staff necessarily for the demand because not everybody is coming to even pay for the answer. They just want the answer and then they're going to jump into action. Like the sales model of that is even complex when you expand your people services to other people without the true demand that people are going to actually buy into it. And I was like, well, I still want to have the impact. How am I going to do that? And luckily, because I'm a little bit tech savvy and have been in the tech game for a while, learning about AI and this approach on how I could take my own proprietary information, my method of coaching, my history, and load it into a machine, create that machine's personality that mimics mine. I was able to clone myself from pretty much end to end for the business practices. Like you might get a little bit of the personal questions you can ask. You could test her and ask and see if she'll answer because there's some little nuggets in there that you would learn about me, but truly it's to help you in while you're in action as you're feeling challenged or need the support in the moment. So I really wanted to be an entrepreneurial coach while in action, so on the go. So I cloned myself in AI and we constructed it into this app that centralizes all my information, whether it's my former podcasts, all my articles, the workshops, the coaching stance, the different workbooks and quizzes that I have out there for people to just again stay in action towards what they want is now centralized in one amazing app called Hey Kareen that you can now carry me around in your pocket. Because I literally, Deb, had clients say that to me. I wish I could carry you around in my pocket. Like when I need you, I wish I could just ask you. I was like, well, now you can.
So it's interesting. You just said something at the very end, what clients said about you. And
Yeah.
sometimes when we're entrepreneurs, business leaders, we hear the voice of the customer. We don't truly hear them. And sometimes when we're figuring out what our brand is or what do they value, they say the darndest things. And we should actually listen to what they say. And just saying, I wish you were in my pocket. Oh my God, there's part of the brand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Curious, just curious. So obviously, I get the idea of a central repository for your knowledge bank, but how do you get your personality into it as well?
It's pretty wild the way it learns who you are. You put an initial guideline into the system of that reflects the personality you want it to have. And then as you test it and go back and forth with it, you then start to tweak things like be a little bit more direct in these arenas. Like these are topics that are off limits. So if someone asks this, like make sure we're saying, thank you for asking, but that's not what this is for, and how do you um grow through it is what
Okay.
happens. That's the machine learning part. That's the coolest part about AI is that it constantly tweaks as you guide it. It
Hmm.
also tweaks as they get the question and answer with users on it, whether or not the answer is valid for that user. It learns from that experience as well. So we constantly, check in on it and see that it's still
Hmm.
reflecting me. It has my voice too, so you can actually make a call to my AI and like have a conversation of your questions. Some people don't want to, type it all out and they just want to talk to me. And that's also there. It's pretty wild. She sounds a little bit more robotic on purpose because I can't have my voice, true voice out there, even though you could take a snippet of this podcast. Like all our ways of being these days are actually on display. It's very easy to just grab what you need and create what you want. It's pretty wild.
That is so, oh my God, so cool. Can't wait to learn more about that. And for our listeners, obviously check out the show notes, learn more about Kareen and all of her different facets. But I want to get more then into who you are as a person, because
Mm.
while you and I are having this great conversation, getting to know each other, if there is an ideal client out there, I want them to understand a little bit more about who you are. And you talk about having a heart of service. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, I realized when I would go into environments, whether it's social or through work, networking, etc., if I could not lean into my core values, which are love, creativity, and integrity, it wasn't a fit for me. And I found that in the early years when I was in the suffering for success model, it was because I was masking who I truly was to belong to an environment, right? And I know you've seen this time and time again. So if we think about C-suite leaders and what it takes to actually sit in that seat of a culture that is prescribed to you, but is up to you to lead within, you have to find the ways to come in it as authentic as possible if you're going to succeed and not feel broken at the end of the day for all that you are putting out into the world and all that you are responsible for. And so when I realized that about my journey, I was like, okay, now I feel when I feel fractured is because I cannot lean into those core values. And then my second book that I wrote called Lead with Value, it actually shares how when you know your personal values and then you create a team value system and then the organizational value system, like it all has to integrate for you to feel like you belong and for you to honestly show up in leading others through the mission that you have. That's what business is. It's a strategic mission to achieve something. Like you can't take achievement out of business. You just can't, but you can plug in to doing it in a value-based way. And I think that's if I were to, when I did write the book and I was also like reflecting on how did I navigate my success and also start to feel better about my life, it was really leaning into those core values, and leading with them, right? Like it makes a difference to lead with your values in mind, I think.
Yeah, I can definitely empathize with that. I mean, when we try to suffer for success, we can put on a mask and be the same as the corporate environment that we're in, and you can succeed. But I will tell you, I hit a wall at one point where I came home to my husband and I said, something's got to change. Something's got to change. The usual things of exercise, an adult beverage, or what have you, was no longer able to calm me down and get me grounded again. I knew something was different. And there's so often people will just ignore these signals and just keep persisting because that's how we were designed. We can endure, we can overcome. This is a challenge just like anything else. But over time, we kind of lose our soul along the way. So, like when
Yeah.
people like you and I take the risk on ourselves to do something different, I now am in service to
Yeah.
clients that I absolutely love. You talk about love, creativity, etc.
Yeah.
I had a
Right.
contractor, I was in a contracting gig that says, we love your ideas, but just stay within the lines. It
Mm.
killed me. And
Yeah.
I talk about disengagement and
Yeah.
it's just
Apathy.
terrible.
Yeah.
No.
It breeds the what's the right word? It becomes a limited belief system of what is possible when you create constructs that are that tight. But you either accept it
Hmm.
or you move on to the next, right? Like that's why I always say I love being a sovereign adult. I could choose whatever the hell I want to do. You know what I mean? Like it's my choice. And a lot of people I think succumb to feeling like they don't have a choice. And they let the limitations of others become their own. It's one of my sayings, like, don't let the limitations of others become your own. Go ahead and try. Like put yourself out there and know for sure after you've acted in it. Otherwise, how do you know?
Your story is so inspiring, but now I turn a little bit to you as a CEO, owner of your own company. What keeps you up at night? What are some of your challenges?
I sleep very deeply because I allow the time during the day to handle my challenges. But I would say currently I'm at this point where constantly creative, right? I'm allowing my creative energy to show up more and more, which means, what is it that I want to continue to run? Do I have the right team structure for what I want to go to next? Is there a shift that I need to do within myself to hit that, creative and innovative stance I want to have in the world? And so what keeps me up truly is like, am I being the best version of myself that is required to stand in what is needed from me? Like that is my common question, because and sometimes it keeps me up because if I don't have the answer to it for whatever I'm facing, then I'm like, okay, a lot's got to change. And sometimes it's just a quiet whisper of like, you got this, you're ready. Like it's okay that it kind of startled you, but you're good.
Mhm.
You have the foundation, like keep moving forward. And I think that's the approach that has been really guiding me all these
Yeah.
years. I would say if I think about the impact I want to have, I always feel like it's not enough. And so meaning like there's such a big vision I have. So sometimes I struggle with have I done enough? Am I actually, or am I distracted? Like, what am I doing in that realm? And what do I have to clean up and let go of, so that I can stand in it? It's challenging because when you become responsible for so much, you can't just, abandon ship and then jump on the next one. I'm a little bit more graceful than that, I'd like to think, but it can keep me up because I want it to happen faster. This is very
And I
aggressive.
so get that. I mean, as a creative, and everything is an opportunity and shiny penny. And then I have to bring in the disciplined, structured engineer in myself to say, okay, we got to plan this, we got to prioritize this.
Yeah.
And I too, I'm actually at a place now where I've got to invest in some people because I love the creative
Mhm.
process. I'm putting out video and content, et cetera. But now it's
Mhm.
getting a little bit mundane. And I think I have a process. So I'm at a place where I need to scale as well so I can
Oh, good.
struggle less and just enjoy myself a little bit more. But one other question I have in terms of, first of all, I've loved this conversation with you, getting to know you, your values, and your purpose. But if there was somebody out there that's your ideal client or
Mhm.
situation, what would that look like? Because again, to my listeners, you've enjoyed our conversation, myself and Kareen, but I want to understand, who are you looking for? So in case somebody's out there, they're going to get in
Yeah.
touch with you.
Yeah. So from a C-suite level, I love working with C-suite executives going through transformation or transition, whether it's like now they're kind of exiting their company and then what next? A lot of that it needs navigation and support. So I love working with clients that way. Anyone who's entrepreneurial, running their own company, you're in the C-suite and you're also an owner of your business. I love to support in the strategic work, like the strategic thinking and making sure that you're aligned with the role you're meant to play in your business. I have this quiz that people can go take. It's heykareen.com/CEO. And it really helps you define like what area of the business is your focus. Because if you're feeling overwhelmed or stuck, that's a really good tool to assess your zone of genius and start leading from there. And I love to support people doing that as well. Anybody who needs, the right team. I mean, my consulting arm that I scaled so quickly is because I helped place the right people in their roles. So if there's any company out there that's like, I need transformation across my team, but I don't know what service to trust that will actually align with us as a leadership team, and then make sure that we are building the right structure underneath us, whether it's contract based or full time. Like, that's another area I support. So truly, I just love answering questions too. So if you want to reach out and ask me a question, that's what the platform's all about. But you could still DM me, and I'm happy to answer as well.
Well, this has been an amazing conversation. I'm grateful that I was introduced to you, got to know you, and I know this is not a one and done because I want to still pick your brain and help you to be successful as well as leverage you across my network. But I want to give you the floor one last time as we bring this to a close. Anything that you want to say to the audience?
I think there's such power in the pause, and whenever this episode airs, if I can encourage you to do one thing this month, it could be sometime in this month. It would just be to give yourself 30 minutes to check in with yourself on how is it going, and just give yourself the time to ask yourself and listen to the answer. If there's something that feels off center or something that feels a little bit uncertain, dig into it. Find yourself some peace in that pause, because it really will help you step forward a little bit stronger, knowing exactly where you are today.
So appreciate those words, so aligned to my brand as well. Kareen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for dropping in on the show, and I do wish you well and continued success.
Thank you.